have to talk about student loans because there is so much, and I can't believe I'm going to say this word, misinformation going around in regards to student loans, especially on social media. If I see one more person post a video talking about you can mail a letter to your credit bureau and get your student loans deferred or get your student loans forgiven. No, that's not how any of this works. Wait, Mom, I even saw a video from a woman yesterday saying that talking about in regards to the defaulted student loans, she said that they were going to file for bankruptcy and then go back to school. And that's how she was going to get her student loans forgiven. I was going to be like, oh no,
Right.
that's not how any of this works.
Not at all. And, and it's a shame that you have all of these people. And I have been right whenever I see someone that has a video on student loans and they're not representing, in the first place, the Department of Education does not have advertising right now on student loans. That means that everybody else out there that has the videos, they're just making things up. Because if it's not coming from the Department of Education or from the Secretary of Education right now, everybody else is just making up stuff. And I
Right.
have this is the bad part about it. I have not seen one video from someone that's a financial aid administrator. And I don't know if you said, but you and I were both trained financial aid administrators. In order to do that, you have to go through training with the Department of Education. We went to the Region 6 training in Dallas. We were also members of several financial aid organizations. And you have to go in those boring meetings and listen to
All
all
day.
new stuff. And then you got what they used to call these letters from the Department of
Mm,
Education every day,
yeah.
dear colleague letters. They
Dear
stopped that
colleague letters.
a
Yes.
few years ago. But you got all of this information on loans, and now you have all of these people. And I heard a man, there's a man on TikTok, and I have to say, and he's saying all the time, I am a financial advisor. Okay, just because you advise somebody on how to do stock, how to do their taxes, you are not a trained financial aid advisor. If you were, you would have because you get certificates, you would have that
Hmm.
certificate and you would show it. And so stop telling people there's no such thing as student loan forgiveness because President Trump moved most of the management of that out of the Department of Education, the financial management to the Small Business Administration. And that's still something that's up in the air. I'm sure
Hmm.
he just announced it a month ago. They have not finalized anything on it. So
Yep.
there is no such thing. Stop lying about it. And that's what's happening. People are lying.
Mhm.
And the thing about it, and you know what? I tell people, I have student loans. I have student loans from
Same.
my doctorate, and you have student loans from your master's. And
Hmm.
so guess what? You need to call your servicer, or you can go to studentloans.gov or and you can also find out the information. And they'll tell you, all of you people, you're going to pay for your student loans. Okay.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
forget it. You're going to pay those student loans. You just forget it unless you die. Okay.
That's it. Like that is the only way to get your student loans. Like, and I did a whole video on this on TikTok. There are a handful of ways to get your student
Three.
loans forgiven.
There's three ways that you can get student loans. One is if you have a proven disability. So you can't just say that I'm sick. That's not a
Yeah.
disability. And it takes a long time. You have to have a lot of documentation and proof that you are on a disability. That's probably the hardest one to get. It's
Hmm.
very difficult to get. Then, if you work in public service, they also have a public service loan forgiveness program,
Oh,
and
that's the one.
that's only for certain, like if you're a firefighter, police officer, and that's in certain areas. And then they have the teacher loan forgiveness program. That's it. That's it.
Mm.
Those are the three major ones. The public service one, and even to get the teacher in public service, you have to pay your loan for 10 years, and
Mhm.
then on time for 10 years, and then it could be forgiven. So
And now, of course, the big one is, of course, with May 5th coming up, and that's when they're going to start calling in on all those people who have defaulted on their student loans, which is really interesting to me because they're calling in on student loans that have defaulted. But I mean, we haven't been paying on our student loans really for the last 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, to be clear, like we've had a pretty nice long break. I know I have. Now I know like for private loans that you've had to pay on those, and yes, I have. I'm one of those people who had to make payments on my private loans over the last 5 years. But your federal loans have been on pause for
yeah,
5 years. So I'm not understanding the whole freak out that's happening right now.
well, it's probably people that were not paying it before COVID. Is the, they're probably
Exactly.
going way back, and they said, like, you know what, you've had these student loans for 10 years and you haven't paid them. I think, in the laws on student loans, and let me just say this. This is the most important thing. The laws on student loans are made by the U.S. Congress. They're
Yep.
not made by a state. So don't call your attorney general. This girl, you could, well, and all of these people, well, go and contact your state attorney general. File a complaint with your state. Your state not get involved in things that are federal. They
Hmm.
probably won't even respond to you, honestly. But if they do, they're going to tell you that is a federal program and we are not involved. They do not supersede the federal government on student loans. So please do not do that. And the other thing is that you just contact your servicer. And then let me say something too that I think really messed people up. When President Biden was running for office and he said that he was going to forgive student loans, and everybody believed him. And everybody was like, well, he forgave all of these student loans. Actually, all he did was because Congress, the president, that's not an executive decision on student loans themselves. They are always determined by Congress, okay? And so all President Biden did was made it available for people to do the three things that I said, and they advertised it a little bit more than any other president. But he did not change what. There was not one rule change. You still got it on disability if you were a teacher or public service. Those things did not change with President Biden. The only thing is more people probably applied for those three things under Biden than had done so previously. Now, I'm going to give everybody a tip that you can do. There is an income-driven payment plan that if you're a low income, you can, or like if you're, well, of course you all know that you can get a forbearance or a deferment if you're unemployed.
Hmm.
That you can do. Please do that. Do not let your loans go into default and you're unemployed. You can just fill
Hmm.
that out. You're going to have to prove you're unemployed, and don't lie about it now. You don't want to lie about
Yes.
it. But anyway, you can do that, and they do also have that income driven plan that you can do. Now, I recently talked to someone in my servicer, and for a little while, the income driven payment plans were no longer on the student loan on their website, but they
Yeah.
are back on now. And you can go in that way, but just keep in touch with your servicer. And then I had
Yes.
people argue with me. They're like, "Well, I don't think they can do this. They keep changing my servicer." Or no, this is what they said. They keep giving my loan to somebody else. I said, that's a servicer. If you
Hmm.
have NailNet, if you have, I forgot who I have, Ed
Mohila.
Financial or Mohila, all of those are servicers. Those are the people that service your loan. Your loan is still with the U.S. Department of Education, with the federal government. Just because, and they can change your servicer. And I also have to remind people that my mortgage company, your mortgage company does it every couple of years.
Yeah.
Everybody does it. I said, if you have a credit card, your credit
Yeah.
card company does it. I got something from Citibank telling me to pay my Kohl's bill. I was like, I don't have a card with Citibank. But
Hmm.
Citibank says, now we manage your Kohl's account. And
Yep.
so that's a common practice. And so people stop lying to people. Let me tell you. And then I've had people say about people getting student loans. This was the most important thing, even when I owned a school. And I would tell them, you know what? You don't mind getting a loan to go and buy clothes. You don't mind getting a loan to go buy a car, and a car is going to depreciate the day you drive it off the
Hmm.
lot. Your education does not depreciate. Now you might forget a few things like I have, but it does not. That's an asset that is not going to depreciate. And so I don't discourage people from getting loans if they don't have the money to pay for school. You don't have to get a loan, but you're going to pay for it. You write a check, give me a credit card or something. You have to pay for it. So it's really student credit, and I think if they called it credit, people will be more apt to not look at it so negatively. They look at it just like they do a Visa card. When somebody goes and gets a Visa card and goes on vacation, and then they look up and then they have a bill because they just spent $7,000 on a vacation. And that's student loans. It's the same thing.
I think they're different though. I think now because school is so much more expensive. Like I just
It
looked this
is.
up the other day. The National Center for Education Statistics says the average tuition now at a 4-year college is $43,000 a year. That's very different. That's even different from when I went and got my bachelor's degree. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's so very different. And that's such an enormous amount of debt to start off life in. You know what I mean? And like, and I'm one of those that's, I don't feel like anybody should have to pay my student loans for me. I made decisions. I decided to go get my master's degree. I decided to go to a private school to do that. That's on me. No questions asked. But I do not feel like the federal government should get interest on our student loans. Yes,
Now,
you gave me, I'm like, yes, you loaned me money to go to school. However, I did go to a school in which you have freely given endowments to all of these other schools. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you freely give money to all of these other institutions and all these other federal governments, freely give them money. But for whatever reason, because I have decided to go to school within this country so that I can work within this country, well, I have to pay you back that money plus interest? No, I don't like that at all. I have an issue with that one. I think at the least the fair thing could be, hey, let's just cut out interest. Pay your student loans, let's cut interest.
well, I think now, looking at when President Trump stopped student loans, in both you, we have stories. They needed to stop the Department of Education because they were doing things because they, and this will be my first time saying this on air, where they were extorting schools as well. My
Hmm.
school was extorted, and it's nothing but plain extortion from the Department of Education, just like all of the stuff that we've seen in all these other agencies. I think now that he's moved it, it will make them look at different aspects of it. It's just like
Hmm.
the video that Elon Musk them had, and they were talking about how these agencies were managing themselves. Now they can look at the Department of Education. They can look and say, okay, maybe we shouldn't, or we could even, what they could do is increase the Pell Grants and increase,
Yes.
and not only make it, well, they need to increase the qualification, I mean, decrease the qualifications,
Hmm.
because people don't realize that under President Obama, very, very few people qualify for Pell Grants. That's something that Obama did. You have to be destitute to
Yes.
to qualify for Pell Grants. Now that's something that I think they
Hmm.
should balance it and definitely allow more people to qualify for Pell Grants, and
Hmm.
therefore less people are getting loans. And this Pell Grant, people don't realize that the Pell Grant was what, I don't know what it is now, but just a few years
Wow.
ago, my last year was like, oh, I think $5,700. It was
Yeah.
like very, very
Hmm.
low. Therefore, and I mean, in order to do that, you were destitute. And if you were just a single person, you were not going to
No,
qualify
you
for
weren't.
Pell.
And they also, what another thing that they could do, they could offer grants to graduate students as well.
Oh,
Because
thank you.
think about what that would also do. Because listen, we know the education system in our country is abysmally low. We know just our
Mhm.
rates and everything are incredibly low. If you want to incentivize people to continue going to school and to continue getting educated in higher level degrees, well, give them incentives. Like,
Right, right.
give grants to people, especially like if we want to incentivize people in learning STEM related career fields. Well, give grants, give people the money to go to school, because right now, if the majority of us are telling you, hey, we can't afford school because we already can't afford a house. We can't afford a house and school.
Well,
Like,
I just look at it this way. I'm just going to die out my student loans. I mean,
yeah, say
you're not going to pay because, when you have student loans cost more than a mortgage, than a house,
yes.
then you have a problem.